Next up is Mount St. Mary's University with Mapping Cudahy's Air, empowering the community with portable air sensors to map hyperlocal patterns of particulate pollution. Professor Adrienne Jones is Mount St. Mary's team lead. Adrienne, your project gives communities the tools they need to turn everyday real-life experience into data that they can use to ignite change. Tell us more.
Great, thanks, Eugene. Okay, everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Great. So this is a kind of an interactive website. If it doesn't work, I also have a static PowerPoint I can switch to if the connection is poor. But if you want to follow along, I can give you the link to the website as well. You can view it on your tablet as we're going or your laptop as well. So I'm Adrienne Jones. I'm a professor in the biology department, and my 3 students that worked on this project are here with me today: Shanika, Deanna, and Susie from interdisciplinary or cross-disciplinary majors, political science, biology, and nursing. Okay, so let me just move this out of the way here. Okay, all right. Okay, so air pollution, as we all know and understand, is a global issue. In 2019, the World Health Organization estimated that pretty much the entire world's population lives in places above air quality guidelines. And this is a website map where you can kind of get a real-time glance of air pollution around the globe, right? So you can see green is where the healthy air is, yellow is where moderate, and red, purple is bad. So you can see this is not a problem unique to Southern California. Further, the World Health kind of ranks air pollution from indoor and outdoor sources, and just outdoor air pollution alone, one of the top risk factors for death around the world. So it's a very serious, serious issue. Okay. So just a little bit about particulate matter pollution. So air pollutants can be all different types, from ozone to NOx and SOx, and particulate matter is one of the most serious for concern. You can measure it in different sizes. The one we focused on was this 2.5 microns. This is the width of your hair, so you can see how tiny these particles are. And these particles can penetrate your lung and cause ill health effects. Major components of particulate matter are things like black carbon, mineral dust, nitrates, ammonia, and PM. Like I said, PM affects more people than any other pollutant on the planet. There's these limits that the World Health, recommended limits that the World Health and the US EPA set. And I want you to kind of remember these limits as we're looking through the data. So the World Health sends a daily max as 5 micrograms per meter squared. That's what the air should be breathing on a daily basis, or a daily basis over a year, and then 10 micrograms per meter in any 24-hour period. The US EPA's is a little bit higher. You want to keep it around 12-15 for your annual mean of air, and 35, no more than 35 for your 24-hour annual mean. And I think a lot of us are familiar with this AQI, this air quality index value, ranging from good to unhealthy for some groups to very unhealthy. And these are some of these AQI values and their corresponding particulate matter pollution values. So in Southern California, right, we have these monitoring sites that the AQI can be built on. So this is a live map as well. So you can kind of think about which area you live in, and you can see what your current air pollution is like. This little pink square here is Cudahy. So that's what these little circles are. So you can kind of see that not every community has one of these permanent air sensors. Another thing we can look at here is the hexagons are the average values from 1998 to 2016. This is like almost 20-year average of PM 2.5. So you can again see that a lot of communities in LA are suffering from high particulate matter pollution. And if we just click on one of these one of these values, we can see that the 10-year annual or the 20-year annual value was around 15 micrograms, right? And if you remember those values, this is well above those values. And then I think everyone's familiar, and if you're not, go ahead and grab your phone and pull up the weather, right? The local weather. And you can see that air quality is right there underneath the weather. So you can kind of get a feel for it as you're going about your day, right? And depending on which operating system you have, you may get more or less information about the air quality. So this is one that I looked at just the other day in Cudahy, and you can see it was in this unhealthy for sensitive groups. And you can also look at data across multiple years, right? So these are particulate matter or AQI values for Los Angeles County across the last 10 years, right? And you can pick out some patterns right here in the data, right? Does anyone have any guesses what's going on in July here with these really high values? You can put it in chat or yell it out, I guess. The 4th of July, right? All the fireworks. Yeah, exactly. Fireworks, 4th of July, right? New Year's fireworks. You can see this is the beginning of lockdown from Corona, where we had this really stretch of clean, healthy air days. So looking at these patterns, you can tell the history of a community as well. Okay, so this USC Children's Health Study started in 1992, and it really showed that the negative impacts of particulate matter pollution and other air pollution on children, right? So this, if we just look at this graph here, this is if you live in a community with higher PM 2.5 values, right, you're more likely to have compromised lungs. So the y-axis is a measure of compromised lungs. And this is why your lungs are still developing before you're age 18. So air pollution harms children's lungs for life. Children exposed to higher levels of particulate matter had significantly lower lung function. In 2017, a study showed that Los Angeles had the worst air pollution in the United States, and particulate matter and ozone together were responsible for over 1,000 excess deaths. So it's definitely a big issue. This is a map showing these kind of health risks, right? So let's take a look at this. So this is the this was a map developed by people at USC and Occidental College in conjunction with the LA County. And these are scores that show these cumulative impacts based on health. And they're based on things like proxy to hazardous areas, air pollution, climate change vulnerability. And again, right, we can kind of zoom in on our area. Cudahy is outlined there, but you can see, right, that across LA, the certain communities are much more at risk than others, right, and much more vulnerable than others. So our project proposes using these portable sensors to kind of fill in the gaps and empower the community to advocate for change. So like I said before, these permanent sensors are, are kind of spread out. And so we want to think about using these portable sensors to fill in. So this is an example of the portable sensor. This is the kind of data you can get. So it's GPS and you get this data as you walk around. So let's take a look at some of the maps with the last couple of minutes. So here's a map of the area, and we crisscrossed it on various walks with the sensors. So you can see some of the patterns overlaid on top of each other here. And these are just some great photos of the community. And then what you can do with the data is you can check out hotspots. So this is 1 day of data. So this is our walk. And then this is a hotspot analysis where it shows that certain areas have higher pollution than others. So particularly around these two schools, during school drop-off, there was heightened particulate air pollution. So we were thinking that you could use this data to kind of advocate for no idling zones around the school. Another thing you could use it for is to advocate for more parks and green space. This is the hotspot analysis here, where through the park is actually showing that it's a buffer for air pollution. And another thing, right, relevant to this particular challenge is you could advocate for EV vehicles, there's no EV stations in Cudahy. And so if you're looking at hotspot map, you could kind of see which areas maybe can benefit from more EV solutions, like we just heard from the other groups. So we have partnered with the community, and we've talked with the SELA Collaborative and Communities for a Better Environment. Communities for a Better Environment, they have some of our sensors right now and are using them to complement some of their current calls for justice and action. And the community in this area definitely sees air pollution as a somewhat important and very important issue. So giving people the data, they can see it, be engaged, and active and advocate for change, right? So I want to, that's our vision, to have this library of sensors. And then those are some of the people we've been working with.
Thank you, Adrienne.
Okay, thank you very much, Adrienne. So we're bringing in CSO Task Force member Dean Kabani into the conversation. Dean rarely needs an introduction to sustainability communities, but given the pioneering role that he had in establishing the role of Chief Sustainability Officer at the municipal level. He is founding head of the Department of Sustainability for the city of Santa Monica, where he was for many years. Dean, thank you so much for joining us today. What questions do you have for Adrienne and her team?
Great. It's great to be here, Eugene. And thanks so much, Adrienne, for the fantastic presentation. Super interesting project that you put together there. The first question that jumped to mind is, I really like the idea of allowing people the personal ability to go out and take measurements and then use that to hopefully force change in their community. How would you propose to deploy these to people? Are these going to go to all residents, to certain activist communities, or I mean, what are your thoughts about getting these out to people so that you can increase the engagement in Cudahy?
Yeah, so we thought about that with, so my 3 students are here too, and they can see how simple it is to use, but it does have a little bit of a technology curve. You have to be familiar with a smartphone, right? So it might not be everyone in the community is using these, but we thought we would work with nonprofit groups that already are engaged in the hard work in the communities and doing campaigns about clean air. So we've reached out to a couple of nonprofits, like I said, Communities for a Better Environment already have some of our sensors in action, and then also some schools as well. So the AQMD, South Coast AQMD did design like a curriculum to use these sensors, and we would bridge that curriculum with the activism component, right? So it's cool, you learn about air pollution, you learn about health, but how do you take it to the next step, linking it to advocate for justice? So these sensors are great, they're robust. You couldn't bring this data to necessarily litigate, but you could use it to say, oh, we want a more sensitive sensor in this area. So you could use it to kind of empower and ask for something that then you could use, get information to litigate change if there was a polluter, or you wanted to campaign against the widening of the freeway or something like that.
Fantastic. And do I have time for another question, Eugene? So have you spoken with, or you or your students, have you spoken with the folks at the city and their planners there and other types of folks about how they would possibly use this data that they're getting from the residents that are collecting it? Has there been kind of a collaborative approach rather than a potentially like confrontational approach about this?
Yeah, no, so definitely we would want a collaborative approach. Yeah, no, we would definitely love to talk with the city and the county. We haven't done that yet. We've talked a little bit with Jennifer, but Karen Sales, but yeah, that would be a great partner to have as well, right? Because working together would be the best. Yep. So.
Fantastic.
Hopefully this can maybe this program can kind of jumpstart that conversation as well.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Great. Well, why don't I hand it back to Eugene, because I know we're kind of under time pressure here.
Okay, thank you very much, Dean, and thank you much again, Adrienne.